What's up, everybody? I'm Jamal.
And I'm Brandon, and this is The Way We Ball.
I was going to open that with what's up, everybody. I'm frustrated because that's how I'm feeling right now. Brandon, it's been a rough couple weeks in Houston. It's been a rough couple weeks specifically for a Dynamo fan. Um, so much I want to say, but at this point, it's like we're just throwing off hot air. It's a lot of the same, a lot of what we've been bitching and moaning about. So I really, with that being said, I don't have much to say. You have anything to add?
In terms of just the last two games since we've kind of last spoken, was a 0-0 draw against St. Louis, which was the most boring game ever. I mean, I was going to live tweet it, but there really wasn't much to live tweet. My final tweet of game was boring was pretty much that encapsulated the whole thing. The Detroit game, I chalk it up as embarrassing just because we had a lot of starters play that game. It wasn't like, we had Dyna Dose guys out there and, it was a 3-3 thrilling game. The fact that we lost in penalties makes it worse too. So we're on a big downward slide right now, and the team needs to wake up. I don't think that's anything new that we haven't heard probably on every other podcast or what fan is saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so a little fun fact for you. That match was actually Detroit City's hottest match they ever played. So we had the ultimate home field advantage. I think the hottest match they had played was 80 some degrees, like 80 or 82, and we beat that and we still got the loss. That was a game we should have won. We had basically our starting back line, aside from Tarbell, we had a strong lineup with Edetta starting that match. So it wasn't like we weren't trying. It's just very frustrating. We're in a downward slope, as you said. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to begin. I feel like it's a lot of the complaints we've had, as I said. A lot of it goes back to my initial complaints about Ben, and I'm kicking myself now because it's like I should have just been patient and keep my hate on Ben going because it went back to what I did not like about Ben Olsen. He won me over these last couple weeks, especially after that Minnesota win. I think he won all of Houston over. He won Siegel over because he got an extension. But ever since the news of that extension, we've just gone downhill. And I don't know if that's just him being comfortable. I don't know if you could only contain a boiling pot so much. Eventually, it just erupts and comes out of the pot and boils over. And I feel like that's where we're at right now. The Sebas thing, I think they put a band aid over it, and the band aid finally ripped off. There's just so much happening right now, and I'm going to go back to Victor Riza had a thread, which I recommend everybody. If you're listening to this, go back and read his thread. He made a lot of good points. But my thing is that I've always been anti Pat, anti Ben, and I've been a huge supporter of Ted Siegel just because of what we've had in the past. But Victor made some really good points, and I'm like, well, is Ted just a better version of our old ownership group? Is he just 5% better than what Gabriel Brandon brought? He brought in new seats. He brought in some upgrades to the Dynamo Stadium, to the shell. But as far as the player investment, we started out hot with Sebas and Herrera, but then it's kind of just died off. Where you have Miami, who's putting in tons of money, and you're seeing that. You have other teams really investing in their club, and we haven't gotten much. So, um, where do you stand, Brandon? Are you how do you lean on with Ted? Are we blaming the wrong people and blaming Pat and Ben?
I would say if you're mad at the frustration of the players we haven't signed, that falls on the GM. If you're upset with the owner of coming in and upgrading the stadium and bringing in talent like Ben, the anti Ben I still don't get, because if you're frustrated with the player development, then how did we win a U.S. Open Cup? How did we make it to the Western Conference Finals? It wasn't just because of Ache Ache. There was other things to it, and it was probably because of the manager of Ben. To me, I am a big Benny Ball guy. I'm going to go all in on him. Sometimes you're going to question his substitutions and tactics. You're not always going to agree with anybody in this earth, especially your manager. They're going to make questionable calls. But overall, I am so with Ben. If we want to talk about somebody that could be on the quote unquote hot seat, okay, it could be Pat, because I don't understand his spending and I'm with everybody else here. But if I'm going to play Dynamo optimistic, here's what I'm going to say. Losing in the US Open Cup was a blessing in disguise. Only 11 other MLS teams are in that cup, in the US Open Cup this year. So if we would have gone on to win it, everybody would have just held it up as, yeah, there wasn't really much competition. My thing is, I think we're only in the US Open Cup again is because we won it last year. And maybe we want to retain as champions, or we just feel obligated because the fans are really behind it. I think us losing this isn't the worst thing. We get more rest now. We get to push forward. It's a down slope right now, but the ship is not completely sinking or sunk. We're still a really good team. We still have a really good coach, and we're going to start to get healthy. I think there's more optimism. We're just playing shitty right now. That's as best as it goes, and that's okay.
I think I agree with you as far as there wasn't much for us to win with this Open Cup. Had we won it, as you said, it's just like, well, it was a bunch of lower division clubs. I my biggest issue is just the way we lost against a team who had never played an MLS side, come into Houston with our stronger side, um, giving up a 2-0 lead. That's my biggest complaint is just the way we lost. I'm actually, I don't want to say I'm happy because at the end of the day, like Dynamo's the most important club for me on this side of the world. But I am glad that the narrative is, well, hopefully for the U.S. Soccer Federation will change, and that'll help MLS get reinvested into the Open Cup. I think it's one of the more important tournaments we have in the U.S. That's a whole other story. Right now, I'm really just focused on what's happening in Houston. The reason it's so easy for me to be worrisome with Ben is because I've mentioned episodes past that I could see him being another Wilmer, and the way we lost this Open Cup match and the way things are going right now, and I know I'm freaking out way too early, but there's been some parallels in Wilmer's tenure. And again, the difference is Wilmer called a lot of the shots with Matt Jordan. I don't know how much power Ben has with Pat. I always go back to Ferreira or Sebas getting signed before Ben was here. That's, I mean, he's handcuffed to what he can do because one of the more important positions, his striker, is not the prototype Benny Ball striker that he wants. So that's why I'm a little more optimistic. And I don't want to say this is Wilmer 2.0, but man, it is scary to go down that rabbit hole and think that we could have another Wilmer in our hands after winning an Open Cup.
The biggest concern right now is I think we only have 8 goals total in MLS play. That is a big concern. That is also, if you look at where we were most of the table this year, we've been in the upper echelon of the Western Conference. And we've done all that with tons of injuries. I think people have just gotten comfortable with Ben pulling one out of his ass here and everybody being like, okay, winning every single game is the norm. You're going to have lulls right now, especially as more healthy people and more focal points come back. What I mean by that is Ache. As he comes back, he starts to dominate the ball more. But he's been out. He hasn't necessarily had games played. So it's going to take him a little bit and the rest of the team to kind of gel and keep going. It's just, if you want to kind of break down Victor's tweet, my thing, I guess I'd ask to you is, what about the tweet speaks to you so much? If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, for me, it's, I don't want to sit here and act like I know everything there is with the MLS. A lot of it confuses me, specifically with the player acquisitions. I'm always seeing Miami as the bad guy, that MLS is in their back pocket because they want to make Messi happy. They want Miami to be happy. What I'm getting from Victor is like, well, it's not just a Miami thing. This is more so that the owners are really investing in this because they really want this to be successful. So me, what I took from that tweet was like, wait, so we could have that too if Ted cared enough. That's what I got out of the tweet, where maybe this isn't just MLS wanting to hyper focus on Miami. This is like, hey, you can be successful in this league. You just got to, put the pony up. And I mean, maybe Ted, I mean, we already know Ted is a real estate guy. And we had our talk with Glenn, and he kind of alluded, like I mentioned on that episode that I was excited to have Ted back. I've seen so many differences. He cares about the Dynamo. And then Glenn had a very small comment where he's like, well, he's still a real estate guy. I didn't think much of it, but then after reading Victor's tweet, seeing what we're seeing in Miami, I mean, of course, the rumors about Griezmann have already started that he's going to Miami. Now I'm like, well, okay, Is this possible for us? Is Ted really just sitting on this to resell it as soon as he can? And I mean, look, the new Welcome to Wrexham season started. Again, I'm like way into that. I love that whole story. And like I follow a lot of those guys, a lot of the locals on X. And they're always talking about, Rob and Ryan are going to sell one day. Rob and Ryan are going to do this one day. At least they're having success. Like Rob and Ryan, I feel like could sell tomorrow. They took you 2 leagues up. We haven't had success that we haven't seen in Houston in a long time. Like, yeah, we have the Open Cup, we have these new seats, we have all of the belts and whistles, but we don't have what makes this team important for us, which is the players, the development. None of that has really changed. And Ted could sell tomorrow. Would that really be a huge difference if he were to sell the Dynamo tomorrow? I'm not saying that's going to happen, but my whole thing is that I think I've been focusing on the wrong guy. I've been focusing on Pat. I've been focusing on his mistake with Sebas, and I've been focusing on Ben, and he's an MLS 1.0 coach. Maybe I should have been focusing on Ted this whole time. I mean, who's to say Ted doesn't go to Pat and say, "Hey, you spent 7 million. I don't want you to spend this kind of money again on a striker." Maybe Pat's has his hands tied behind his back because of direct orders from Ted. I mean, I don't know who. They do a great job of keeping their lips tight on everything. I don't know who is to blame in this whole scenario. Pat plays a huge role. You go into an offseason without a striker. But again, like if you're seeing this, that it is possible to spend exuberant amounts of cash, should we be focused on Ted?
You're not wrong, because in a lot of ways, if you have an owner who will spend big, it creates hype. I don't understand when people are pitching, for instance, Inter Miami. A lot of things that they'll say is like, "Oh, no state income tax, so that makes it more lucrative." But pricing in terms of housing and real estate in Miami is sky high. Cost of living is sky high. You know where there is no state income tax? Texas. You know where cost of living isn't sky high? Houston. And you know where most athletes come and they enjoy it when they move here? Houston. So I am kind of on board with you here. Why don't we have an owner who is pitching that, who is selling all these guys like the Messis of the world, all these big names, Griezmann, etc., pitching it to them, come live here, come build soccer in this starving city and be a god, and you'll make 10x. You might even catch, these superstars overseas that are making hundreds of $1 million contracts. You might catch them in that in terms of jersey sales, ad revenue, name it. Like it's stupid how we just don't exploit that.
And I
And that
think
comes
another
on the
part of
owner.
that, yeah, 100%. And I think another big part of that is, again, just pressure. Like Glenn always talks about pressure from the media to these guys. I think we need more pressure. I feel a lot of our media guys do a great job of, well, I take that back. There's only one person who does a great job, Glenn. Everyone else does it pro bono. But like the news outlets, where's the pressure from these guys? Like when the Texans, when that whole thing, the Easterby stuff, Texans were on top of that. When the Rockets are having a slump, the media's on top of that. Media's on top of it. When it comes to Dynamo, again, we're just the ugly red-headed stepchild that they don't care about.
Orange.
And until we start changing that, Ted's not really going to feel pressure to do anything. The GM's not going to feel any pressure. It seems like a very laid back gig to be in charge of soccer in Houston.
I think it's laid back if you're if you're Ted. It's frustrating if you're Ben or Pat, because I don't know. I don't know what the budget is in terms of what is allocated versus what we're going to spend on building out in terms of the stadium headquarters, which is all very important. I'm glad we're doing that. But I also think there's a happy medium. I think you can build a headquarters and then say in 3 years, we're going to upgrade the stadium here. But within those 3 years, we're going to spend on players. I'm not in on those meetings. I wish we were, but it could develop somewhere further.
I don't think you would have gotten a single upset fan had they never made the upgrade to the seats and just used that on player personnel. I think we focused on a lot of the wrong things. But yeah, I mean, look, again, Victor made a great point, a great debate point. And it's going to be interesting to see how this summer plays out. I think this summer is where Pat, either gets that contract extended or he pretty much signs off on his exit from the Dynamo. This is going to be the summer. I don't. I hope there's going to be a huge splash, and that's why we haven't seen an attacker. Like I still have that small ounce of hope because again, I don't know how you go this far into the season with your number one priority not being addressed. Um, so I'm just hoping for that another Adetta type of signing to come into Houston and kind of shut us all up, if you will.
One thing I'm interested in is what has happened to our wingbacks. Tate Schmidt, he was wretched last game and also looked extremely tired. Dorsey has not been that great this year. Escobar, okay, he actually has been solid, but he's been out. I don't understand what's happened back there. We've done Steris, we've done some odd things where we're putting people back there. If we're gonna keep shoving guys, like why not go youth? By the way, Exxon, speaking of youth, that guy's a stud for Dino Dose, man. He just keeps producing, even though Dino Dose has like a record sucks. That guy's awesome.
That's because half the team went to Carolina Core. But no, yeah, I'm excited for him. I'm hoping, and that was another reason I was hoping for an extension with Open Cup was to get those guys in.
100%.
I for the draft pick. I don't want to butcher his name, but he got his first goal with us, so hopefully those will start coming in. Um, but yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about our backs. Even, I mean, Brad Smith. I know he's traditionally not a back, but when you see him back there, it's very bad. So last year, one of our strengths has immediately become one of our weaknesses. So it hasn't been the most fun season. Funny story enough, as you're listening, you'll notice we're a day late from our typical Thursday episodes, but Brandon was moving into a new place and I was in Maui. Um, I, I was watching from my phone. I was at a work conference watching from my phone. It's 2-0. And I was like, you know what? I need to stop being rude because like my boss's bosses are all there. So I put my phone down thinking we just won this comfortably to later on check and see that we're going into penalties after a 3-3 draw. Talk about just a complete 180. And I'm scared to like I haven't even gone and watched the full game. I've seen the highlights after the fact and I try to like watch the full games after. I don't even know if I can, one, but two, I don't even want to put myself through that. Um, but enough negative,
So
Brandon.
funny story. Well, hold on.
Go ahead.
Funny story of because speaking of the game, you're right. I was moving, so I wasn't able to attend the match. So I have a buddy that I used to work with, and he was like, "Hey, I've never been to a Dynamo game. I don't really know much. Can I go?" I was like, "Oh my god, perfect. Take my ticket. Here you go." And so he went with a friend and like sent me messages where he was like, "Dude, I thought soccer was like 0-0 every game. Everybody talks about how it was boring." He was like, "All they could do was score." And I was like, I wanted to just leave him on that hope to hope he tunes in next week. I was like, I know it's fun, right? In the hopes that he doesn't see like our past and how we just can't score, but that game was an anomaly. So I left him on a cliffhanger.
Did you give him like a heads up? Like there's usually more people at these games, or did you not even
Yeah.
get to that?
Well, the worst part is, so he went to Sam Houston State, and again, he's not like sports fanatic or anything like that. And I told him, "Hey, what you're about to see, no one's really going to be there because it's kind of like if the Texans played Sam Houston State in football, then they end up losing." I was like, "Oh shit!"
That was like the
And so
best
when he
setup.
texted, I know, right?
That
Because
was
when he texted, he was like, "That was bad, right?" I was like, "That was really bad."
oh man. Well, you know what? I will say though, if going back to that Open Cup match, if we were doing a battle of the badges, the better badge won. I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves. That Detroit City badge is awesome. It's one of my favorites in USL.
Good uniforms too. I hope Detroit become like, I know we want to build up lower leagues, but I do hope maybe one day they can fight for relegation into the MLS. I think they're just a cool following, cool city. Wish we would have played there, to be honest with you. Would have been cool if that game was in Detroit.
There, that would have, and it would have been a packed house. We had a cup set with New Mexico and RSL, so that was great to see. And I think they had a pretty good traveling fan base. But yeah, that should be the rule. Like, always go to the smaller division. Like, it makes sense. Um, With that being said, the guy who tied, I don't know if you knew this, the guy who tied the game for Detroit, San Antonio kid, played for San Antonio FC from San Antonio, and San Antonio got the last laugh there. They got Wemby first, and then they got that tie on us. So
This
I know, but all right, Brandon, I'm
Jared,
not trying to be negative, Nancy. I guess we can go on to our ball in, ball out, where we take topics from the world of soccer and say if we're ball in, we're for them, or we're ball out against them. Brandon, I know you have the topics lined up.
I do. Hold on, pulling them up and letting producer Shay just jam. All right, so your first one here. Speaking of you in Hawaii, ball in, ball out. An MLS team would work in Hawaii.
Ball
Mm.
in or ball out?
I am ball out. I was having that exact thought. I was thinking to myself, like, man, I wonder if lower division soccer would work here, like a MPSL club, at the very least, because it's so nice. The weather's incredible. I was thinking like it'd be a great away day to experience, but unless you have a multi-billionaire, so I just found out that what's his name, Amazon lives out in Maui part of the year. I can't think of his name. What was that?
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, there you go. Jeff Bezos lives out there. So maybe if he were to invest and he can help cover the travel, I think that's the only reason it wouldn't work out. It's just so far to get out there. I'm still kind of jet lagged. Um, it was a 6 hour, 5 hour difference. They're 5 hours behind. So on the flight back, I took a sleeping pill thinking it would help get me back into our time zone. And I was out all day. So for that reason, specifically, I don't see it happening.
I would love it if we played like say every Saturday or once a week. I could see that being a little bit more feasible. The argument could be, well, would an NFL team work there because it's just only eight weeks? You know what I mean? And it's an interesting spot. Hawaii could be an untapped bed for a future of sporting a professional sport. I think they should try it with MLS, see where it goes, or at least like what you said, a league below MLS would still be fun. They would just have to figure out scheduling. Maybe they do like where they're like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. I don't know. It would have to be tricky, but it would be cool. So because of that, I'm ball in. All
I
right, my
mean,
man.
that's why I mentioned NPSL or UPSL because they do a good job of regionalizing it. So like I'm assuming
Yeah.
Hawaii would be like the Seattle, Washington, California region. So I feel like it could, which makes me think about it. How does the university do it aside from football? How do they do it with the other sports? Do you know about that?
I should. I do watch when they're on like ESPN 3 at like midnight because it's just late night betting, to be honest with you, and you can chase a game. But they've got them all. I've watched a lot of Hawaii baseball randomly. That's how you know I'm betting. Uh, but I assume their travel just sucks. Like those kids really just want to play. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
gives you plenty of time to do work on the plane.
Huh.
All right, your next one. Go ahead, producer Shay.
Ball in or ball out?
What's the better game, FIFA or Football Manager? I know that's not really a ball in, ball out, but it's kind of an either or.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you brought that up because before jumping on this, I was playing some FIFA and I was thinking, like, you know what? I could really go for Football Manager right now. I feel like Football Manager is the better soccer snobs game. If you're like a diehard
100%.
follower of a club, then you're a Football Manager guy. Um, I'm gonna have to go with EAFC. I love Football Manager. I love like pretending I'm someone important, but EAFC, anyone can pick it up. You can get a quick game with your buddies online, talk trash. I have to go with the EAFC.
What's funny is, like, I know it's EAFC, but I still always call it FIFA. And what's funny about that is I hate FIFA, the organization in real life, but I hate the game name EAFC, and I always will kind of refer to it as FIFA. It was just a better name to call it. FIFA was always my game. It still is my game. That's my jam, man. Like I remember in college, going and playing against these, frat bros, and just it was so fun because living overseas in Asia, playing with those kids, man, like it's a different level. And then coming back here, I could just hustle for cash. Football Manager, that one is that was so much fun during the pandemic, to be honest with you, because you have nothing but time. And it's really just like looking at spreadsheets. Like there's no music, there's no graphics. It's just like open this up and run a club, and it is fun that way. But oh my God, it will take over your life in a lot of time consuming hours that you just didn't realize went away. So in this case, better game, the AFC, I agree.
Wait, so I forgot you lived in Asia. So were you a Pro Evolution guy or Winning 11?
Now, yeah, I did. Yeah, we did play a little bit of Winning 11. So like my friends that I ran with, like half of us were Winning 11 guys. The other half were big more FIFA. And it was just always it was always one of those things when like you played a Winning 11 guy and like they lost, it was always like, oh, if we switched over, I would work you. And it was just, I don't know, it was stupid. FIFA just always was,
So
it's always had my loyalty.
it's funny because there was a point in time where like my cousins, we just went on a Winning 11 binge. Like that's all we were playing for like 3-4 years straight. And because of that little era, I guess you can call it, I used the Pro Evolution or Winning 11 style control configuration.
Mm.
I can't use FIFA. Like for me, squares to shoot, uh, circle
Oh,
is
that
to
makes
long
sense.
ball.
Because I played on Shay's controller, and well, maybe he switches the shoot pass button or cross
No,
button.
yeah, that's
I don't
why
know, but he had
Shay's
it.
part of that.
Yeah, see, and it like I picked it up quickly, but it was still one of those where it took a moment. He had the crowd on that one. Yeah, I hate that controller configuration, but I'm with it. All right, my man. Go ahead, producer Shay, play it.
Ball in or ball out.
30-year-olds. Sorry, I did not write this correctly.
Ball in or ball out.
There it is. When you turn 30, you should stop asking friends to help you move. You ball in or ball out on that.
You should have stopped asking friends a long time ago. I'm ball in, and the reason is because my last move in, I hired movers. Life changing, not game changing, but
Oh,
life changing. I like one, it just takes all the hassle off of your hands. But two, just to see these guys work was like magic. They moved so
yeah.
fast. They picked up tables and chairs and boxes so fast. And they made it look so easy. And then they make it look so easy that you regret paying for this because you're like, I could have done that. I could have easily done that. But then you think about it, you're like, no. And so, yeah, I am ball in on having to stop asking your friends because nobody's going to say no. If you have like really good friends, they're not going to say no, but they don't want to be there. And I might have to help my girlfriend move. I'm not looking forward to it. So I think this will air hopefully after the fact, but or this will prove if she listens or not. But I am so not looking forward to it. So yeah, I am ball in on not having to ask your friends.
So, as somebody who just literally moved and is still putting stuff up, I did hire movers as well. And you're right. It is incredible to watch them work. I already live tiny, so I don't have much stuff. And one of his crew workers, like, obviously didn't speak any English, but he didn't realize that I can understand most Spanish. And you have to hire these guys for a 2 hour minimum. Most moving companies, that's like a requirement, right? And in Spanish, saying it to the boss, he goes, I can't believe this guy is paying us for 2 hours because literally, like within 15 minutes, everything was out. And it was just like, because to move me is like moving a master bedroom. So when I ask people for help, legitimately, once we get like the TV, like entertainment and couch out, we're kind of done. Like there's not much else to move in my place. So it's not that big of a hassle to move me. I would say I get it that when you turn a certain age, you kind of have to stop asking your friends. I don't mind helping people move. I genuinely don't. But when you turn 30, I think at that moment, yes, it
Noted.
yeah, it is ball out. Yeah. Well, hey, producer Shay, I've helped you move several times and you've helped me. I will say that when you turn 30, yeah, ball out. You should stop asking your friends and hire movers.
Well, the frustrating thing is that whenever you get asked, you go in assuming I'm just going to move a few boxes. Excuse me. And then you realize that person is not packed up. That's the absolute worst.
Okay. So that's my caveat. I will help you move. I will not help you pack. That is a totally different scenario. Moving is one thing. If it's ready to go, that's fine. But if you haven't packed yet, I'll come back after we get the TV and the blah, 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 all the big stuff out. You can take care of the rest then.
Yeah, no, I've gone through so many scenarios where it's like the little knickknacks, and it's just like, dude, are you kidding me right now? That's the other reason why I've like lived in Texas almost my whole life, and I won't get a truck because once you're that friend in the
Yep.
group with a truck, you're
You
having
move
to help
everybody.
for everybody. You're any little thing. Oh, let's just call Jamal. He has a truck.
Yeah, I agree. I never got a truck for that reason as well.
Well, alrighty, Brandon. As you can see, we weren't too thrilled with everything happening in Dynamo or at the Shell, so it wasn't a very Dynamo centric ball in, ball out. But let's get out of this area and go somewhere around the globe where we have our ball in around the globe segment where we take a story from anywhere in the soccer loving world and bring it to you, the way we ball listeners. Brandon, you want to kick it off this week?
Ball in around the globe.
Perfect, producer Shay. I do, and it is so topical for what I'm doing. I am taking us to England here, and I already asked you this question about which is the better game. So I'm just going to dive right on into it. So it says Bromley FC head to Wembley this weekend as they look to win a place in the English Football League for the first time in their 132 history. And should the Ravens get past Solihull Moors in the National League playoff final, they'll have Football Manager and Xbox to thank. Or more specifically, they'll have their 23-year-old Football Manager gamer, Nathan Owolbi, to thank. Anyone who's ever played the game, and we dare to say that most of you reading this will, have dreamed of blurring gaming with reality and masterminding your team to glory. But for Nathan, these dreams have come true. After provided one FM24 player with a working placement at fifth tier side Bromley, Nathan's prowess of the population simulation game led him to applying for the job, which then saw him undergo a job interview with Bromley boss Andy Woodman, who gave him the nod and added him to his staff as support performance tactician in January. Nathan's role sees him shadowing and learning from the coaching staff to understand what goes into tactical decision making that goes into promotion chasing team. Prior to Sunday's playoff final, McCann London, Kraft, and Excel Film have produced a three-part documentary for TNT Sports that goes behind the scenes of Nathan's journey as the club looked to close the gap on runaway leaders Chesterfield before battling through the playoffs. Nathan has embedded himself into our group of staff, and his work ethic has been great, Woodman said. The benefits of the project are that we have another voice and angle, a different approach to things. Nathan has embraced the opportunity and has really added something to our group. So, Jamal, think about it, man. Maybe if we stopped playing EAFC and started playing more Football Manager, you and me would have jobs.
Yeah. What's funny is that I've always had this dream of like bringing a lower division club back to the RGV after the Toros disbanded. And one of my favorite YouTubers is Zealand, Zealand, and he started because of Football Manager. I would hire that guy as like for two reasons. One, to be like the GM, help bring players, but two, it's like free publicity. All of his followers are going to be followers of the team. I'm giving a team free game right now on how to be successful. So I love that story because I've always felt like I would do something like that. There is something with Football Manager and all the analytics involved. I feel like you could have a decently successful club just off of a Football Manager.
I believe Pablo Torre did a deep dive on his show to kind of shout out another podcast. But if people are really interested in this, they did a really big deep dive into Football Manager. And one of them was following Will Still, which is his name. And he is a manager. And it's wild. They get fined something like 20K every game because he's not a credited football manager in like the association. But instead, he's just some dude that they hired because he played a lot of football manager and he's doing really well. So it's wild that game can genuinely make you successful. I honestly don't know of another video game that has this kind of impact in terms of where it turns into real life work.
World of Warcraft. just kidding.
I mean, besides
All
like a flight
those.
later game.
No, yeah, it's pretty incredible. And the database that's behind it all, and I mean, there's so many videos on YouTube that just deep dive. There was one interview, the creator of Football Manager. I forgot who they were speaking with, but basically talked about how deep they go into these player profiles and how much science and analytics goes behind it. Like it's really, really impressive. And again, I mentioned it earlier, Football Manager is perfect for the like football savant. So yeah, that's awesome, man. I hope there's more stories like that because I do feel like there's something there. Again, this is coming from somebody who grew up on Daryl Morey Rocket basketball, so I'm all about the numbers. I'm all about the analytics. Um, well, kind of on the same stratosphere, if you will, on signing players and futures contracts and wonder kids. American Wonder Kid, Kate Cowell signed his futures contract with
Where'd he
Philadelphia
go?
Union.
Oh no.
Yeah, so he's with Philadelphia Union 2. With as soon as he turns 18, he heads to Man City. This is the highest signing for somebody of his age. Brandon, this is more of a question for you. Is Kate Cowell more on the spectrum of a Christian Pulisic, or is he more on the spectrum of a Freddie Adu? If you were to take a guess right now.
I think in terms probably more Pulisic because of his size. A lot of people don't realize like Cade is a big guy, man. Like in terms, he's not heavy. He's a mountain. And that's the difference between him and Freddie. Freddie was really, really frail and thin and could be shoved around. I think Cade can have success, especially up top, because he's not going to really be bullied by those center backs or those backs trying to push him out of position. He can keep pressing forward. So I think because of that, his youth, his speed, and his size, he has more promise to go further.
Okay, so I just made a mistake. It's Kevin. Did I say I said Kid Cowell? He's a kid
Oh,
with yeah, hold on, let me get you his full name.
yeah, Kevin Sullivan. I was going to say,
Kevin
isn't Cade
Sullivan, there
with
you
the
go.
Mexican team?
Yeah. Right when I said Cade,
Oh,
Cade and
then I'm
Kevin.
not
What
going
are
to
their
lie. I
parents
don't know shit
thinking?
about Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah, so I'll have to ask you that again. I mean, he's a kid. He's more of the Pulisic size. My I guess my question is, there's been a ton of hype with this kid. Um, so I guess to answer my own question, I'm more on the Pulisic side of things. He's been sought after like crazy. He was sought after with Real Madrid, Barcelona, everybody. I forgot who made the comment, but basically they asked why he went with Man City. They said that the reason you're only seeing Man City go after this kid is because whenever Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, whenever they tried, Man City just offered so much more than what they did. So it wasn't because of a lack of trying, it was because they knew they could not match Man City money. So he's heavily sought after. There's a lot of pressure, but I feel like the difference is now we know as a country, we know a lot more about the sport. One, two, he's not on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He's not getting cover stories on ESPN. You don't know about Kevin unless you follow soccer. So I don't feel like the pressure is there, like of what Freddie had to deal with. I'm really excited about this kid. It's going to be a very lucrative deal. Philadelphia's going to make money off of it. Um, I'm just kind of bummed out he's going to Man City, but it's awesome. People keep saying we're in our golden era. I don't think we're in our golden era. I think we have just started. I think this is the future of U.S. soccer. I think we're catching up to the powerhouses in the world of soccer.
So producer Shay is confusing the hell out of me, and I don't know. He made me watch these highlights of like a kid who was like 11 and he was tiny and he was just dominating. And I keep asking if this is him, but he just keeps doing he is him type of shit. Oh, okay, now he's finally answered me. It is him. All right, then I have seen this kid, and you said yes to like ridiculous things. So sorry, I know people. I'm not arguing in my head. He's on a chat here that he's messaging in, but yes. Okay, I have seen this kid. I am aware of him. He looked really tiny and stuff like that, but he was really good. So he's kind of like a little Messi, an
Yeah,
American Messi.
Yeah,
I
no,
can't. Then you know what? Screw
he's
Man
good.
City.
Yeah,
Well,
no, he's
now
good,
I
and
hope he's
I feel like Man City are after him because they like they know what they're looking for. Um, I'm really excited to see what this kid develops into, and I'm also really excited or happy that he's with Philadelphia's youth system and not some other teams.
Yeah, but screw that. I hope he sucks overseas, but is great for the national team.
Yeah, so
'Cause I don't want to be good at City. Screw that.
that or they just like sell him really early. That's my hope. Sell him elsewhere. I'm over Man City. But alrighty, Braden, go ahead.
Well, hold on. Before we head out here, on the way out, let's do a crystal ball. We're going to Sporting KC this Saturday. Sporting KC hemorrhages a lot of goals. How do you see it? That's
This
pretty
has
good.
potential to be a slaughter. 2-0 KC.
Sporting KC's had like I said, they've been hemorrhaging a lot of goals. I think it's like a -8 differential on the season this year. After seeing Sporting KC team saying that we don't really ever play well going to Children's Mercy up there, I'm going to say it's a 2-1 devastation. Lose late.
Like a last minute kind of goal.
Yep, I think like 87th minute, it's 1-1, and they just take one at the bell.
Huh. All right. Well, the way we optimists.
Yeah, I know. I should be more optimistic. Hopefully, you would think after a loss, a fire would be lit under us, but I just think we're still coming back from so many injuries. It's going to take a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough to say that we're going to come back with this fire because I don't even know who's going to go out there. Is Sebas going to be back? Um,
Yep.
is Escobar going to be back? Like it's just tough to call. And we'll save it for next episode. But we let Aleyu off easy this episode. Um, I just knew when he went up for that PK, you just knew that wasn't going in. But yeah, we'll see. I think we both have a loss 2-1. Brandon's call, 2-0 my call. But for this week's episode, I'm Jamal. I'm a tanned Jamal.
And I'm a recently new moved in Brandon, and this is the way we ball.